Now, among stocks that are coming up recurringly on the charts is Borosil. They are looking to split the business into two separate listed entities, while one will house its core business, the scientific and the consumer arm. The current entity will house the solar glass business as well. Joining us now to talk about the proposed restructuring, which was announced a few days back. More importantly, talk about how the business is shaping up as well, because the stock is really revving up on the bourses, is Shreevar Kheruka. He's MD and CEO at Borosil Glassworks. Shreevar, good morning. Thanks so much for joining in. Something that you, of course, intimated, I believe, about 20 days back. Can you tell us first proposed timelines by which first the amalgamation and then the restructuring would take place?
So like we have announced this about 20 days ago, like you rightly mentioned, and I think it's not entirely in our control. There's a bunch of other agencies, governmental nodal agencies that are involved, and I believe the timeline that we've been given to anticipate is about 12 months for the whole scheme to play out.
Interesting. Okay, so wait for 12 months for this restructuring to happen. In the interim, it's important to talk about how business is shaping up for, well, arguably both the listed entities, I presume. Can you tell us how the months of June has been? The market certainly seems to be pricing in fairly favorable business tailwinds for you as a company. Can you give us some details, whatever you can?
So I can't really comment on the last quarter results specifically, but I can tell you in general, ever since GST has been implemented, we've been seeing a very good progress in terms of demand for our consumer business as well as the other businesses that we have. I think that's driven a lot by a move towards more branded players, more organized competition, and in general I would say that we have quite a few tailwinds which are helping us, including things like this anti-plastic movement that has started across the social media as well as all other media outlets in general. Awareness of the benefits of glass are definitely becoming much more and more widespread.
Tell us about it. I mean, since you brought it up, I wanted to ask this to you a bit later, but since you brought it up, is that already starting to show near-term tailwinds for companies in your space and you in particular?
Yes, I mean, it has been for a while now. I mean, of course, the Maharashtra government has decided to ban certain types of plastic only a few months ago or, a few weeks ago. But actually speaking, the anti-plastic sentiment amongst consumers has been resonating for the last few years. So we saw this coming maybe 3-4 years ago, and we have developed a pretty large product portfolio which is going into the food storage market, as well as on-the-go storage, things like bottles, lunch boxes. And as we speak to customers, more and more people are concerned about the damage plastic is causing the environment. Of course, we need plastic, in many aspects of our lives, but at the same time, wherever we can avoid using it, when there are alternatives available, then I think customers understand that it's maybe the right thing to do. And we are benefiting somewhat to the, in our product range with the new products that we've developed.
The other bit would be what you mentioned in your opening statement as well, the GST related benefits. Now, the reason I ask this is because your industry arguably would be one of the most fragmented ones when it comes to operations. Some of the more organized intended beneficiaries of GST2 are expressing disappointment at the pace at which the number 2 market or the black market is getting curbed. What's been your experience? Are you indeed benefiting from that in your business in a meaningful way?
Yes, I mean, it's hard to quantify that at this present moment, but in general, as I see it, my own feeling is that people are moving towards more organized competition. Has it been at the pace at which people may have anticipated? Probably not. But at the same time, there's a clear movement in that direction. And my sense is that over the next couple of years, as people get more aligned with paying taxes and doing the right thing in terms of following all the commercial laws that are there in the country, we are going to see more and more benefits accrue to organized players. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. Could it be faster? Yes, probably. We would have hoped that the benefit would have been faster.
But you're already seeing benefits resulting out of that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, interesting. Something that wanted to talk about. I believe with the cash that you have at the moment, as a result of this restructuring or otherwise, 140 odd crores go to Borosil Limited, and the balance 125 odd crores, if I'm not wrong, will remain with Borosil Renewables, which will be invested in expanding the solar glass business. Can you tell us a bit more about this? What is this business looking like? What's the scope of solar glasses in India? And what's the kind of business generation or revenue generation that you expect this sphere to show for you over the course of the next 3 years?
Yeah. So solar, we are Gujarat Borosil, the current name of the company, is India's only solar glass producer. And currently we are at sold out capacity. Last year, the business did about 200 crores of top line. The solar industry has been growing very rapidly. I think the government is doing a great job in increasing the demand for solar in the country. I think going forward, this has a real strong potential for us in terms of growth, and that's the reason Gujarat Borosil has gone in for a capex of about 235 crores, and this capex is going to increase our capacity by 1.4 times, which means we will in about 12 months we will go to 2.4 times current capacity. And what will happen with this is that we will be able to increase our domestic presence as well as increase our international presence in the market. We've launched some new products, including much thinner glass, which is higher yield in terms of efficiencies, and we believe that that's the way to go for the future. So to answer your question specifically, this business is dependent on capacity. It's a manufacturing B2B oriented business, and if we increase our capacity with this 235 crore capex by 1.4 times, we should be able to increase our turnover by a similar amount going forward.
You mentioned you are sold out, which means order inflow is not a problem. What about competition within this space? Because I hear a lot of companies as an allied activity or as a mainstream activity getting into this as well. How is competition shaping up? Or do you believe that there is enough work for almost everybody to get a slice of the pie?
So at the moment, like I said, we are India's only solar glass producer, so there's no domestic players in the space, and the reason for that is that there's been a lot of Chinese dumping in this category. So Chinese companies have really been exporting their glass at very, very low prices, lower than the cost of production, and including from China, from Malaysia as well, and that's one of the reasons why the Indian industry has not grown as much as probably it could have. So going forward, we have done a lot of innovation in our company, a lot of research and development in order to lower the cost of production, and that has stood us in very good stead, and we are able to compete even in spite of lower Chinese prices. So we are quite satisfied at the moment where we are, and that's the reason we've done this expansion, or we're doing this expansion. And I believe that going forward with the new products, the 2mm glass, which is a thinner glass, coming out, we will really stand a very good step ahead of the competitors, including the Chinese.
Okay, I have one last question. Somewhere in your presentations, you've spoken about how you intend to take the return on capital up from current 13-14 odd % to maybe 20 odd %. Is it for the solar glass business? Is it for the consolidated business? Can you give us some light there, and how do you intend to do that?
So solar glass business will improve definitely to the high teens, maybe early 20s in terms of, once we have this capacity, we get some economies of scale as well. Obviously, the consumer business can show even better improvement because we see, again, large economies of scale coming in consumer as our, say, advertising and, distribution expenses are, quite large. As the turnover increases, we get a lot of operating leverage in these areas. So I can't comment specifically on where we're going to end up, but certainly we should see a substantial improvement in the return on capital employed going forward.